What's up guys, I'm BTC. If you're still struggling to rank up on the competitive ladder, then this video is for you. I got 5 no-nonsense tips to help you start climbing. Quick thanks to today's sponsor, Pursuit. Pursuit helps you rank up in Overwatch by tracking comprehensive statistics about every match and showing you how to improve. Right now, my subscribers can sign up for free with the link down below. Alright guys, you might have seen videos like this in the past, and often they're filled with far too much stuff and most of it just gets forgotten after you watch the video. On top of that, lots of it tends to just be far too generic to be useful. So the list that I put together for you today is going to be a lot more specific, no-nonsense direction and tell you exactly what you need to do to rank up. Let's get started. Number 1. Find some people that you can duo queue with. You can also try triple queue, but I personally think that duo queue is better. Solo queue on the ladder is just a mess, but always having someone who you know you can rely on will significantly improve your chances of winning. Again, let's get rid of the generic stuff and go to the specifics. Let me be clear, I'm not telling you to just grab whatever random friend you have who happens to like Overwatch. You need to pick other players who are just as dedicated to ranking up as you are. I would advise that you also avoid players who happen to be one-tricks. It's a lot more than just queuing up with someone though. If you and the other player try to synergize the heroes that you play, you're going to find that it's far more effective than if you just tried it with random players. Over time, you'll get accustomed to the playstyle of that other player, and you'll be able to adapt and compensate when needed. For example, one plays Hanzo, the other plays Zarya. That's a strong combo. One is Pharah, the other is Mercy. You get the idea, there's lots of combos. The more games you play together, the better and more effective those combos will be. Now, I know what some of you might be saying. Well, I don't have any friends that play Overwatch, or the ones that do aren't really competitive. That's fine. Here's the solution. Start finding people in the matches that you play. If you're on a team with someone and they happen to be a good teammate, then ask them to add you on their friends list and get some matches going with them. Sometimes the people will say no thanks. That's okay. Just move on to the next one. Other times you'll add someone and after a couple matches, you'll notice that maybe they're not really as dedicated as you would have liked, or maybe it's just not working for whatever reason. Again, that's okay. Just stop queuing with them if that's the case. You should have between 5 and 10 people on your friends list who you can regularly queue with in stacks of 2 or 3. Number 2, this is a big one. You gotta get rid of the tunnel vision and start working on your game sense. Mechanical skill alone can get you from bronze up to platinum, but beyond that, you have to have strong game sense. What is game sense? It's knowing what's going on in the match as a whole, not just what's in front of you. This means that you have to pay attention to not just your cooldowns and your ultimate, but also the cooldowns and ultimate of your teammates and the enemy. You can check your teammate's ultimate status pretty easy now by just hitting tab, but in order to check the status of the enemy ultimates, the only way you're going to be able to do that is by paying attention and keeping track to what they've been doing. It's not going to be perfect, but you should have some idea of where the enemy ult status is. Couple of examples. If your team's Mercy has her res on cooldown, then it means you need to be more careful. If the enemy Roadhog has his hook on cooldown, then it means you can be more aggressive. If you think the enemy Zenyatta has his ultimate ready, then you don't want to waste your Zarya ultimate until you force the Zen to use his. Positioning is also another incredibly important part of game sense. If you only focus on the enemy that's directly in front of you, then there's a good chance that another one of the enemy is going to hit you from the side. With both of these things, you can help yourself and your team by regularly making these kinds of callouts. Tell your team when you see the Hanzo climbing the building up to the top right. Tell your team when the Tracer's recall is down. But that leads us into the next thing. Number 3, be a leader. Take charge during these matches. I'm not telling you boss around the rest of your team, but give them direction. I realize that not everyone is going to be using voice comms, and even those that do may not listen to you. But if even one of your teammates pays attention, consider that a small victory. You don't have to be a bully or mean, just make sure that you put a little bit of command authority in your voice. Sounding sure of yourself is one of the best ways for other people to have confidence in you as well. This will also help you with what I just mentioned about game sense, because it will force you to be more aware of everything that's going on, because then you have to relay it to your team. Some of the things that you should be doing are: make a strategy for your team and what they're going to be doing. Are you going to attack and into the left, or are you going to go to the right? Even if it doesn't work, it's still better to have your whole team on the same page and trying to do the same thing than just having everyone kind of wander off and do their own. Other things include calling out the position of where important enemies are, calling out the target you want your team to focus on. If everyone is just attacking at random, then it's going to be a lot more difficult and drawn out, but if everyone on your team focuses on one target, then there's a good chance it's going to get taken out really quick. Before a fight, let your team know what ultimates your team has ready and give them your best guess at what the enemy might have as well. After a fight, do a quick recap and let your team know what ultimates the enemy team ended up using and which will not be available in the next one. One of the biggest things you can do is simply tell your team when the fight is over. Often you go in and lose 2 or 3 players right away, and some of your team will back up and some will stay in and just kind of drag out the whole fight, and it just turns into a mess. You need to be able to recognize when the fight is over and quickly tell your team to back up or just let themselves get eliminated, because you need to regroup as 6 as soon as possible so that you can have another full strength push. And now we're getting into the ones that might give some people problems, because this is where you're going to find the most confrontation. You need to be able to tell your team when something is not working. If the soldier isn't able to take out the Pharah for whatever reason, then ask him what the issue is and try to fix it. Whether it's someone else playing soldier, or maybe a healer switches to Zen for Discord, whatever it happens to be, it needs to be fixed. Don't let fight after fight drag on with the same problem. This also means that some people will need to switch characters, and you can politely ask them to do so. Some will and some won't. Just accept it, whatever the case is, and adapt as much as you can. And one final thing about this particular topic. If someone else is already doing a pretty good job of being the leader for your match, then don't try to fight them for it. Just let them do their thing and add in whatever you can extra when you think it might be helpful. Number 4. One-tricking is almost always a terrible idea. I'm sure many of you have seen or heard of this guy or that guy who made it from bronze to GM by one-tricking whatever. That's fine for them, and it's bad for almost everyone else. Having a main or a go-to character that you mostly use is perfectly fine, but you absolutely need to have backup characters. I would suggest 1 main and 2 backups. Ideally, they should all be within the same role. And for this, you can count offense and defense as just kind of DPS, so it's perfectly fine to learn Tracer as their main, and then let's say McCree and Junkrat as the backups. There are 2 reasons for this, and both should be fairly obvious. First, someone else might grab a character before you, and then you just can't play it. And second, your main might be getting hard countered really bad, and you're just not being effective. So remember when I said I was going to be a little more specific? This is what I want you guys to do. Next time you log into Overwatch, take whatever your main character is, and then find 2 backups that you like within that role. Then, over the next couple days, you need to practice nothing but those 2 backups. Preferably not in the competitive ladder. I would recommend quick play or free-for-all, depending on the character type. Then, you can go back into the competitive ladder and continue using your main, but be ready to switch those backups whenever you notice that you're not being effective. And number 5, you need to start paying more attention to the mistakes you're making and turn off the autopilot. Watching videos like this, or tips and tricks and guides and all that stuff, is a really good idea, but you have to make sure that you're actually making the changes to your own gameplay that you need to make. Far too often, players will make the effort to learn something new, but then they get caught making the same mistakes over and over again to the point where it becomes a habit, and they may not even be aware that they're making those mistakes. For me personally, every time I make a mistake, I try to point it out and I say it out loud to myself or to the viewers of my live stream if I happen to be streaming. I say, that was a mistake, I should have done this or that instead. By doing that, I'm helping to reinforce the memory that I should be doing something else and I shouldn't be making that mistake. And that brings me to something else that I wanted to show you guys, which is the program that I mentioned earlier called Pursuit. First and foremost, it's free, so there really is no reason to not give it a try. What Pursuit will do for you is it tracks all the stuff that goes on during your matches, far beyond your normal stat page. This means you, your team, your opponents, everything. You can use this to then review every single match individually, and it allows you to gain insights into things like what was the target priority, what was the first picks. The key thing here is that it doesn't allow you to stay in that autopilot mode. You can see after every single match whether or not you're improving, or if you're just kind of making the same mistakes over and over. In short, Pursuit helps you assess your strengths and weaknesses and to get better clarity on what it is you're doing and what you need to do to improve. And once more, it's free, so you have nothing to lose and lots of rank to gain. Thanks for watching. Make sure to check out my Discord server. Follow me on Twitch and Twitter. The links for that stuff are down below. And remember, always blame the controller, because it's never your fault. Also, special thanks to all my Patreon supporters for helping to make this all possible. If you'd like to see what kind of cool rewards you can get for supporting the channel, check the links on screen and down below.